college football playoff, what you do moving forward. And the reason why we're bringing this up is that Chip Kelly was recently talking about this, that he thinks we've all talked about it, right, guys? That it just feels like the college football, at least when it's coming to making moves, recruiting, even the college football playoff, how things are decided, it's a little bit of the wild, wild west, right? So Chip Kelly actually made some comments. We have the video here we want to listen to about what he thinks college football should consider doing for their new model moving forward.
The biggest issue that you might have right now, whether it be realignment, NIL, transfer portal, and what would your plan maybe be to try to solve it?
I think they're all a problem, and I think we need to have a conference commissioner. I think football should be separate from the other sports. Just the fact that our school is leaving to go to the Big Ten in football, our softball team should be playing Arizona in softball. Our basketball team should be playing Arizona in basketball. But because football left, and they're saying, well, how do you do that? Well, Notre Dame's independent in football, and they're in a conference and everything else. I think we should all be independent in football. And you can have a 64-team conference that's in the Power Five, and you can have a 64-team conference in the Group of Five. And we separate it, and we play each other. You can have the West Coast teams, and then every year we play 7 games against the West Coast teams, and then we play the East. So we play Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia. Then the next year you play against the South while you still play your 7 teams. You can play a 7-game schedule. You can play 4 against another conference, another division opponent, and you can always play against one Mountain West team every year so that we can still keep those rivalries going. Not that I've really thought about this. Not that I've a lot of spent of time on this. But I think if you went together collectively as a group and said there's 132 teams and we all share in the same we all share the same TV contract, so that the Mountain West doesn't have one and the Sun Belt doesn't have another and SEC has one and they have another, that we all go together, that's a lot of games, and there's a lot of people in the TV world that would go through it. You can sponsor each one. Instead of calling it Group of 5 and Power 5, you can call it Amazon, Nike, bid that out to things. You can do a lot of different things. But I think if we still do the same thing and take all that money, and I would do this, and I think this needs to be done, that money now needs to be shared with the student athletes, and there needs to be revenue sharing, and the players should get paid, and you can get rid of NLI, and the schools should be paying the players because the players are what the product is. And the fact that they don't get paid is really the biggest travesty.
Well, damn. You know, I thought he good joke. Chip Kelly has jokes. That is a very thorough explanation. I think that we've constantly talked about this, how much the landscape of college athletics has changed over the last few years. And I mean, Rock, you covering more down south with Alabama and Auburn, those rivalries, obviously the SEC, that's staying put, but the rest of these schools around the country, it's changed. And it's because of what they're chasing in the football world, because the football industry obviously drives a lot of money for these universities.
No, it absolutely does. And it's really like these moves are all about the money. It's plain and simple. Agree with it or disagree with it. That is why they're making these moves. And the TV revenue and TV deals are a big reason why. I hate that USC and UCLA are now coming over to the Big Ten. Like, I think it's simply ridiculous that you're having a team for one game travel cross country to do that. And like, why are we calling it the Big Ten anymore then? Like, why are we going to be calling the ACC the Atlantic Coast Conference if you're getting teams from a different coast coming in and playing? Like, it's just like, it's really screwed up the landscape of college football. I don't know. Maybe Chip Kelly should retire from coaching and be the commissioner, honestly. Yeah. That's not a knock on his coaching at all. But, I mean, the guy's got a point in what he's saying, because you look at the teams that have the benefit of traveling. Football. Football is, it's making all the money at the university. Not all of it, but like, it's football and basketball are the two main sports that are going to probably benefit the most revenue and money-wise. And then Chip Kelly talks about softball. Chip Kelly talks about the other sports. It's like there is no reason to pull away from the rivalries, the traditional rivalries, where you're playing schools not necessarily right down the road, but a state over rather than across the country. I hate it for college football. I hate it for college athletics. I really do wish that we could stay the same traditionally, where the teams out west are playing the teams out west. And maybe like you have the college football kickoff game where you're playing an Alabama, or you're playing a Michigan, or you're playing somebody on the East Coast or down south.
Yeah.
But to screw up your schedule completely, and you're having teams all over the place and going here, there, and somewhere else. I want to see what the travel log is going to look like and like the flight trackers for these schools, because it's going to be crazy and just simply ridiculous for college athletics.
I mean, like you just said, I think the biggest thing Chip Kelly brought up is, yeah, football can go and go cross country and stuff. But when UCLA football team is flying to wherever, to go play on the East Coast, they've got a plane and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
they are
nice plane too.
Yeah, they've got nice things. I bet UCLA's women's basketball team does not have as nice of a plane or travel that they get.
You have to wonder, because we don't know that.
So we don't know.
One would assume it might not be the case.
Yeah, what we, I guess, have seen from a bigger level, not just saying UCLA, that's just the example we're using because of Chip Kelly here. But let's say these schools that, now you do have to travel cross country, not just for football, for every single sport.
And I wanted to kind of bring up what you just said about we're not sure about the planes and whatnot. Take a look at the NCAA tournament a few years back, for example. I think it was 2 years ago. The men's weight room and then the women's weight room, and how big of a disgrace that was.
The food they were
and
getting.
how bad that looked on the NCAA, and the food and everything else. Even to the care packages, the welcome packages that these student athletes got. It wasn't the same on either scale.
Not at all. And it's going to be the exact, you hope it's not, but most likely we will see the same discrepancies in the football team, the men's basketball teams travel compared to the softball team, the women's basketball team, the track and field teams. Like, although I do know Pac-12 track and field is as legit as it gets.
Awesome.
So that was probably a bad example because they probably have a lot of nice stuff. But for these lesser programs and sports that aren't getting the money that a football team is getting from sponsors and from boosters and stuff, it's going to be hard to convince these kids that you are now going to be not only on the road for the majority of your season, you're going across country the majority of your season. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes from all sports, not just football.
I do love, so here's what I'll say to that. First of all, I don't disagree with anything the two of you guys had said, but if that's going to happen, it's going to start with football. So I would rather it just start already, and so that we can actually start to get better at this, and then have it, I don't want to say the word trickle down, but I don't have a better term for that. But just, I think it could start. And here's what I'll say about the whole thing that Chip Kelly is proposing too, is that this eliminates the issues that we saw this year with Florida State, right? Everybody kind of gets a shot at getting into the dance that way. And so I actually really like this, but I definitely see what you guys are saying too on the other side of who's going to get left out or who's going to get slighted because of something like this if it ends up happening, which, I mean, hey, kind of looks like it's headed in that direction, but we'll obviously see. But I loved what Chip Kelly had to say about it.
It was so thorough. It was so thought out. And I think that's the beauty of it. And that's a guy that's been around the game. That's a guy that's actually a part of the sport that is driving, college athletics. That's we're not naive to it. Football drives, that's why people make all these moves. But man, when we were growing up, even in these cases, in this region here specifically, look at this banner behind, Maryland fans, the Maryland basketball rivalry was with Duke and UNC. Maryland's gone to the Big Ten and hasn't really created that same rivalry since then. And I think that's what people are afraid to miss out. Yeah, the football component's exciting, but how about everybody? How about everything going on? That's the stuff you miss. So it's great. Is it going to happen anytime soon? Probably not.
No.
But at some point things are going to have to change. That's why we wanted to talk about it.